So I think you created the case for the HIIT training. As Rooney said, that high intensity training is going to be what promotes mitochondrial biogenesis. We know that it improves VO2 max. We just spoke about the benefits of that. We also know that that's what, relative to, say, moderate intensity continuous training, the high intensity training is what causes greater adaptation centrally. So heart and arteries and all of these other aspects of cardiorespiratory fitness. But if we're thinking about a program and we're thinking about also having some moderate intensity continuous training, let's take two scenarios. So let's just take the first scenario is someone listening can put aside 45 minutes of training a day for 5 days a week. That's their allocation to exercise.
Yeah.
I kind of want to understand, okay, if we think about high intensity, which we've just spoken about, the duration of that is actually not that long to get that minimum effective volume. If we think about the more moderate intensity continuous training, which does take up quite a bit of time, and then you think about strength training, which we haven't even got to, a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
But if we think about these kind of three main categories, and someone has 45 minutes per day for 5 days a week, they have 2 days off where they don't train, what does their program look like?
So going off the guidelines of minutes per week and modalities of training, it's recommended 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardio per week.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours a week. So there are many ways that you can incorporate that into your training. The program that I would see fitting most people, which again, I'd say this is the minimum effective dose. And I know that some people are like, well, I don't even have 45 minutes, 5 days a week. This is ideal. So this is for people who really can afford to spend, let's say during the week, all of your weekdays, you're going to find 45 minutes to work out. If you can dedicate 2 of those days to resistance training, you're going to get all the benefits of improving your muscle strength, which helps lower the risk of falling as you age, improves your bone mineral density. And the minimum effective dose for resistance training, if you actually want to grow bigger, the frequency is train each muscle group twice a week. So that is sort of the sweet spot right there. So what you would do is you would have 2 full body workouts per week and you can space them out. You have a day or 2 of rest between those, right? So twice a week, full body.
Can I ask you a question on those?
Sure, yeah.
So you got 45 minutes to do a full body workout.
Yeah.
My understanding is that you want to ideally be getting sort of 10 sets in a week for most muscle groups as a minimum amount of sets. Would that be?
Yeah, spot on.
That'd be right. So when you're creating that full body workout, this is probably a whole nother episode, but just in sort of high level, what I'm kind of hearing from you is you would create that in a way so that you would be doing sort of 5 sets of a given body part in one of those sessions.
Yeah.
And then another 5 sets of that same body part in the next session, which would equate to 10 sets for the week.
Right. You are correct in that the minimum dose would be about 10 sets per muscle group per week, but that's for hypertrophy. We're talking people who really want to grow bigger muscles. This for me is more of like the baseline healthy for an individual that wants to be healthy and doesn't actually care about really optimizing hypertrophy.
Right.
Because if you're trying to fit 10 sets per week per muscle group across 2 workouts and you're doing full body, 2 times a week is not enough to distribute that
45
volume.
minutes is not going to be long.
Right. So the frequency would have to increase. You'd have to do full body maybe 4 or 5 times a week to get enough volume per body part so that you get your 10
Unless
sets.
you work out for 90 minutes.
Correct.
And then you're going to have fatigue.
So this is someone like, sorry, Mum, but this is for you. Like,
okay, but then let me play devil's advocate here. Yeah. So if we're focusing mostly on strength, what sort of rep range are we talking about here?
Is strength the goal for this person? Because I would say we stick to moderate repetitions. Well, the moderate range typically is 6 to 12.
Right.
So the strength range, we would say 6 reps and below. I think for most people, it's unnecessary. 6 to 12 is the most time efficient, bang for your buck. You're going to get the stimulus. You're going to get low enough reps that you're developing that neural strength pathway, high enough that you get a metabolic stress from the 12 reps, but you're not doing so many reps that from like, for example, 15 to 30. That would be like a high rep range.
So 6 to 12.
6 to 12 reps.
But something that would be really important would be the RPE.
Yes. So per exercise, we want to be getting at least 3 reps shy of failure, right? So if you're doing a set of 12 squats, but you could have got 20 reps,
it's not heavy enough.
You're not optimizing the stimulus. So pick a weight or a load that allows you to get within 3 reps of that fail point where your technique sort of goes. That's a fair point to terminate the set. So what I would say is you're probably only going to need to do 2 sets per exercise. We're going to do an exercise for your upper body pushing in both the vertical and horizontal plane, upper body pulling, vertical and horizontal. Then we've got a squat pattern and a hinge pattern.
Right. So just to really reinforce that so that people are getting the best bang for their buck. Because if you've got short time, the way I see it is when you go and work out, you want to be getting as much results as you can, right?
Right.
Wring every bit of water out of that towel in that session.
Exactly.
And so when you say 3 reps left, and we covered this on a previous episode, but basically when you decide that you're finishing that set, it's going to feel hard.
Oh yeah.
Right. So give me an idea as to what 3 reps left actually feels like. So if someone that hasn't trained that much is kind of thinking, okay, I'd like some indications as to whether I'm actually taking a set to that point.
Okay. So 3 reps short of failure is equivalent to an RPE of 7 out of 10.
Okay.
If 10 out of 10 is I cannot do another repetition, I'm done.
Right.
Even if I try as hard as I can with a spotter, with 7 people motivating me, screaming in my face and a gun to my head, I can't move this weight. That's a 10 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is I can feel a significant burn. My velocity of repetition has slowed down. I'm starting to grind a little bit. So it doesn't look like my first rep. And I want to stop, but I know I could probably do a few more. Mm-hmm. That's probably where you want to be.
So what would happen if you go into the gym and you still do your 45-minute workout, but you finish everything on an RPE of 5? So very mild burn, not much, and you had quite a lot of reps. Like, you're still going to get some benefit?
Yes, you definitely will, depending on your rep range, of course. But yes, you will get benefit at 5 reps in reserve. Are you optimizing it? No. And if you really want to get better and better and progressively overload, over time, you're going to have to get closer and closer to that 0 reps in reserve. So essentially, like, if you're programming intelligently, you'll increase your volume over time, but you'll also have workouts where you do go to failure. Mm-hmm. But if you train in failure all the time, you're just going to burn out over time. We spoke about it on a previous study that we brought up on an episode before, chronic failure training, what it does to the body. But essentially, we're going in twice a week, full body workouts, and the workout density here is important. So I would structure this. It's called agonist-antagonist supersets, which is just a fancy way of saying you're going to pair together exercises that are opposing muscle groups. So like pushing and pulling muscles. When the pushing muscles are resting, the pulling muscles can work. So that allows you to be very time efficient.
Get more volume in that 45 minutes.
Correct. Like if you just did everything and rested for 1 to 2 minutes per exercise, well, you're missing out on that 1 minute of rest where you could be doing muscles that are fresh, and you're not going to tax the muscles that you just worked. So we're going to pair them up in supersets, push, pull, maybe legs, core, and we're going to just crank out 45 minutes straight, couple sets per exercise. We're going to do that twice a week. On your other days, you're going to do cardio, right? So we've done 2 days of resistance, 3 days of cardio. Here, we're going to combine the moderate intensity and the HIIT training into the one session, but we're going to do our moderate intensity training first for let's say you've got the 45 minutes, right? 40 minutes on the bike. And for your last 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever you want, you're going to do that HIIT bout that we just spoke about. So 40 minutes at moderate, that's at a heart rate that we've also predetermined based off the calculations. At the end of that 40 minutes, it's time to crank up the resistance a bit, increase that RPM if you have to, and try get the heart rate over 85%, hold that for 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. You can do that 3 times a week. So you can just alternating days, so resistance, cardio.
So you kind of just glossed over the calculation for moderate.
Did I? Sorry.
Right. But I know we did a presentation on that at the retreat. So it's a hard one to kind of explain in audio. It's almost easier for people to read.
Just come to the retreat in October and we'll give you a visual workshop.
Well, that is a good way for all of this to kind of be consolidated. But I think what we might do so it can be a bit easier, we can have something in the show notes, or at some point we'll put together a couple scenarios and make it as a resource.
Yeah.
But for now, just to summarize that, you're saying, so someone has 45 minutes available for 5 days a week. They are wanting to create an exercise program that is for general health and well-being, longevity. So we're going to be working different energy systems and also training different parts of the body. So there'll be these resistance training, 2 resistance training sessions a week, which both of them are full body resistance training sessions. They go for 45 minutes each. Then on top of that, you have 3 days where you do a moderate intensity continuous training. So that could be sitting on a bike for 40 minutes, heart rate to sort of determine, or heart rate to kind of aim for, is going to be roughly 70% of your max heart rate, but we'll provide more accurate calculations for that.
Yeah, 65 to 75, I would say, is
right.
Going to be the sweet spot there.
Okay. So that will see you probably land in zone 2. But the other thing that someone could think about there is, can they hold a conversation?
Yep.
Right.
We call that the talk test.
Right.
And you actually use that in exercise physiology a lot in like cardiac rehab wards.
Right.
We use that as an intensity regulator.
Right. So in that continuous 40-minute on the bike, you should have a bit of a sweat. You're a bit puffy.
Yep.
You can have a conversation. It's not like you're just sitting down and having a tea.
No.
But you could still have one.
Yeah.
And then at the end of each of those, you're going to do a 4-minute HIIT.
And if you're really geeky, you can do what we did and get a lactate meter, but that's
a whole nother episode.
It too far.
And I think that might complicate it for this avatar anyway.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I think that's something maybe more for someone who's optimizing for athletic
Mind you, we did talk
performance.
about it with Rooney, so you can check that out as well.
But that's scenario 1.
Yep.
Now, what about someone who has a little bit more time? So they have an hour a day and they only take 1 day off a week. So it's still pretty close to the same time as the first one. It's a little bit bigger. I'm interested if that changes things. It's a little bit longer, I mean. I'm interested if that changes things in terms of programming for this person.
Yeah, I think that we now have an extra day to do a third resistance training workout. I've always liked that 2 to 3 times a week for resistance training as a sweet spot. And there have been position statements saying that 2 to 3 times a week is recommended, where you're going to get like a lot of benefits, whilst 4 or 5 times a week may not necessarily take you that much further unless you're like a bodybuilder with specific goals. But for the general population who want to be strong, build some muscle, improve their bone mineral density, 2 to 3 times a week in the gym is going to do just fine. And again, I would do these as full body workouts. There are other splits you can do. You can do upper lower splits, but again, you need more frequency for those. So if you're doing an upper lower split, you'd need probably 4 days in the gym would be the optimal frequency, because we want to hit upper body twice a week and lower body twice a week. But here we've only got 3 days. Let's go full body again. The exact same thing with a day off in between.
Right.
When I say day off, I'm not saying a day of complete rest, but we can do the cardio on those days again. So we'll have those 3 moderate intensity continuous training days where we're in the zone 2 on a bike or whatever mode you want to do it on.
Or if you don't mind training a certain body part on a different day of the week each week,
right,
you could turn that into an 8-day week.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, we talk about this in 7 days, but it's called asynchronous training, where instead of just starting every week on that Monday workout, it'll look different each week. If you do it in 8 days.
If you take an 8-day block, that could be push, pull, legs.
Correct. Yeah, push, pull, legs, upper, lower, full body, or you could do a total bro split where you just pick a muscle group and hit it in one go. But
okay.
I do think if we're just simplifying it for minimum dose, 3 resistance trainings a week of full body, 3 cardios of moderate intensity, at the end of those zone 2s, you can throw on that 4-minute interval of HIIT at the end. But we've also now got another opportunity to do a HIIT day where there's a specific day that we're going to absolutely dedicate to HIIT training, where we can get those 4-minute intervals, right? So you can add in that extra day if you want. You can swap out, say, one of the moderates.
Okay,
and put in a dedicated 4x4-minute interval HIIT day where you're sort of essentially giving that 35-40 minutes of HIIT training. So there's so many different options and ways to do it, but just think about the dosing, think about what the guidelines are saying. We've got those, 150 minutes a week of moderate, as long as you're hitting that, resistance 2 to 3 times a week at the intensities we just spoke about, and at least taking 1 or 2 of your cardio workouts to that high intensity interval training zone, then you're covering your bases.
The total time that you're spending in moderate continuous at that 65-70% of your max heart rate is going to be much longer than the time you're spent at the 90% heart rate doing HIIT training.
Exactly right. Intensity, duration, trade-off. If you're able to do HIIT for 60 minutes, you're not doing HIIT.